Hey, beautiful souls. Today, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about a few different things that have been on my heart, my mind, in my sphere of influence, what's been coming to me recently. A lot of it tied to the travel that I did in the summer and stemming from the freedom, really, that comes from that type of living. So it's not so much about the exotic destinations and the places you go and the things you do and the experiences that you have. Those are all part of it. But for me, it's an expression of freedom, a willingness and the beingness of being in freedom, in living a truly free or as free as we can humanly make it kind of life. I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this conversation. So, freedom is a big topic that obviously we talk about it a lot in the United States, being a free country and living, in the home of the free. And it's been programmed into us from an early age to live in that gratitude that we have a free country. And it's absolutely true compared to other places in the world. I mean, I was born in South Korea, and just north of us in North Korea are a very unfree people, an unfree society, a true dictatorship, a true totalitarian country that you have no freedom to live the way you wish, listen and watch the things that you want to have the kind of profession that you want to have, to be with the person that you want to be with. I mean, it is bleak there. And that's one end of the spectrum. And the other end of the spectrum is true sovereignty and freedom. And the United States is in between this, certainly more towards the end of the free spectrum. But when a place, a government, a country gives you rights through something called the Bill of Rights or through any kind of documentation, you have to wonder, well, what gives you the authority to give me rights that I should already have as a human, as an earthling, as a being here in this world, in this life, just like all the other beings that have landed here to have this human experience and to be in this life? What gives any authoritative body the power to give somebody rights? Shouldn't we already have those rights? Don't we already have those rights inherently? So when we look at freedom from a spiritual perspective, I'm talking about true freedom, freedom to create with the Creator in our divine nature, the freedom to live and be where we wish and how we wish, to actually be able to generate a life here that is positive and beautiful and of our making. And all this kind of freedom takes is an inner understanding of what we're living here. Or another way of looking at it is a multidimensional understanding of what it is we're doing here and how we're living here. So when we talk about living in the matrix, talking about living within societal constraints and constructs, that is life within a certain set of boundaries, a certain set of parameters that have been set up based on wherever the heck you were born into, where you were raised. I mean, I was born in South Korea, but adopted into an American family and raised in the United States. My life, even in a country like South Korea, would have been vastly different than my life here. My allegiance would have been to South Korea, not the United States. I would have had a completely different perspective on life and a different vantage point if that were the only place I was living from. And you can certainly be an American citizen and live that way too, where your only vantage point is here as an American or you as a citizen of a government. But we are citizens of the planet. We are humans here having this earthly experience. And what it means to be human from a spiritual perspective is that we know our soul is here residing in this human experience, and our soul is our true nature. Our soul is that multidimensional being that travels and visits other places, even in this lifetime. Think about your dream life. Think about when you meditate and where you might go. Think about the one who thinks, that thinker who understands your mind and that you are not your mind, the thinker that is actually observing your life from a different vantage point. Even when we live in this life from that vantage point, we see that it's multi-layered, that it's multidimensional, that it isn't just this, I'm this person with this name who lives in this country with these rights. When we live in the true freedom of understanding who we really are, that we are these soul travelers living here in this set of experiences, we get to break free from those constraints that the earthly plane puts on us. And those constraints can be a great experience. They can be a way for us to just experience, period, to have that set of experiences. So that's one benefit that we get from those constraints. The other is having contrast. So when we have a constraint, we then seek to not be constrained. So it's the seeking of not being constrained that teaches us so much about life and about ourselves, that actually imbues characteristics on us that we didn't have before through moving through the working out of those constraints. And so having constraints can be a beautiful thing, but only until we recognize that we're constrained, only until we recognize that we are in these boxes or that we're in this set of parameters or that we're in this matrix. And before we understand that, we are just living in that experience. So to move out of that box, if you will, and into a multi-dimensional, multi-layered set of experiences and way of experiencing our life here on this planet or in this human body, we are accepting that we're more than the story that we've lived. We're more than the place that we were born into or the family we were born into. We're more than the language we speak or the country we live in. We're more than those human characteristics. True freedom is in seeing that we create beyond that, that those constraints have given us a set of experiences to learn from. Cool. And now what else can we do here? What can we do with that knowing and those constraints so that we can live into our true nature, the true nature of ourselves as soul beings, as co-creators with the divine? Truly living into that set of experiences means that we are taking the wheel, that we are driving with a totally new map, that we are taking the keys from that human ego, from the human that thinks they're in control of this life. So if you think you're in control of your own life, but you're not yet living from this soul's perspective, take a look at just some of the ways that you're living, some of the constraints that you're living within. If you feel like you're living a life without choice, then you're most likely constrained by this set of thought patterns, this energetic set of programs that told you you're stuck, told you that this is all there is. Now, who would tell you that? Why would anyone tell you that this is all you are? Why would anyone program that into you? If we, as an omniscient, powerful being, wanted to have a certain kind of experience here, then we might even put those controls on ourselves, almost like our own governor on our being, so that we forget over time how powerful we are, or we forgot as we were growing up who we really are. So that life then becomes this adventure of getting back to that, of remembering who we are, of going home. What you'll hear in the spiritual circles is this analogy of a journey home. This journey home is journey back to who we really truly are. This soul being in this flesh and bones body that gets to have these experiences, but also through the remembering of who we are, gets to have an even more up-leveled experience if we so choose. You can live through this life just as an unconscious human, but you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if that's where you were. So how do we continue the remembering? And that's really what this mystical path is all about. It is following these signposts that point us in that direction of home, and understanding that every practice, every teaching, every thing that we can do to assist in that journey are just ways to support what we already know that we have. We already have freedom. We already have our trueness, our truth. We already are whole. We already are these powerful co-creators. The path and the journey back of remembering is just knocking down all those barriers that made us forget, that programmed us into not believing that, in not knowing that. So going back to who would do that to us? Who would want that to be the case? Well, if you already knew this, that we were and that we are these powerful co-creative beings, if you knew that and you were living in that magic, but you were also living a lifetime where you wanted to constrain others, you wanted to control others, you wanted to have more of that power for yourself. And this would be coming from a place where you didn't actually realize who you really are. Because if you realized who you really are, you wouldn't need to take power from anybody else, because you fully have everything you need all right here, right now. You don't need to steal it from anybody else. So from those lower vibration beings who are in that understanding of who we are, but also don't truly believe it or don't truly understand it, and they're trying to suck the power from other people and by controlling them, then you get a society where there are programs that come through systems of government, come through systems of schooling, come through systems of media, come through systems of all different types of control to wipe that memory of who we really are from us, to steal that knowledge from us. Organized religions, for the most part, are guilty of this as well, of where they put some deity in between you and God, in between you and source creation, in forcing this pathway that makes you worship something to get to that higher worship, to get to that place where we understand that we are of God, that we are of creation, that we are creation. It doesn't mean we created ourselves and that we are the ultimate creators, but it means that we are of creation, that we don't need any sort of middle manager in between us and creation itself. And by having a middle manager there, it strips us of some of our power to understand that we are co-creators with the divine, that we have the ability to be at one with this beautiful creative energy that made all of this, that made us. We're coming into these bodies and into this experience with vastly more knowledge and inspiration and source material than what we think we have. And all of the programs that tell us that we're not that are just programs keeping us away from truth that have been put into place by people who are afraid of their own power. They truly don't understand it because they're afraid of you having some of it, which means that must mean I don't have as much, right? This is child's mentality that, wait, if they get that candy, does that mean I don't get the candy? It's an immature and unevolved understanding of what's truly at play here. I'm not saying I totally understand. I understand up to this point, up to a certain amount of wisdom and knowledge that I've been fortunate enough to receive and to experience. But does it mean I understand all? Absolutely not. There will be more that is revealed and more to come. And that's what's so exciting about this journey and about this adventure and about life itself, is that we get to continue to learn, continue to evolve, continue to glean so much wisdom and insight from the life that we're living if we stay in that place of humility, stay in that place of being the constant student of life. We are the master and we're the student. We are our ultimate source of wisdom, and yet we are the humble servant to all that is. We're all of it. We are in and play all of those different roles. Getting to that understanding, getting to a point in which you accept this about life, gets us to true freedom, because we're no longer seeking freedom from somebody else, from something else. If something has to give you your sense of freedom, then you don't have real freedom. If someone needs to unlock the door to your own prison, you don't have true freedom. If by getting to free yourself from your corporate job and finally be making money on your own is what gives you a sense of freedom, then you don't yet have freedom. Freedom is an internal game. It is an absolute understanding of who we really are and what we're doing here, which is having an incredible set of experiences, having a life that is a adventure of learning and understanding and feeling and experiencing and interacting and contrasting and being. Being in this life is life. Being a human being is what we're doing here. When we get trapped in the doing and we get duped into thinking what we do or don't do gives us freedom, or that this government or this corporate entity or this society is the thing that's going to give me my freedom, then you're not working that internal game. This life, this everyday mystic life, this life of living in true harmony with the oneness and understanding ourselves as divine beings, means we are understanding that we are free. We're free to create. We're free to love. We're free to give. We're free to receive. We're free to be. We're free to do. We're free to have these set of experiences that we're meant to have here. We're free to learn from those and fully evolve from those. We're free to up level into where we want to go. And we're also free to not do jack diddly with anything. We're free to not do any of that. We're free to completely be unconscious to it. We're free to not learn anything and not evolve. We're free to completely destroy ourselves here if you wanted to. All of that is freedom. It's freedom, and it's also responsibility. If you don't want to end up in a place that you don't want to end up, then you first realize you're free, and then you take responsibility for that freedom. Bringing those things together is taking control of the wheel, is you living into this life in the way that you dream it to be, because now you've got the keys. Remember that feeling when you first got into your own car? You finally get your license and then you get to drive that car and you could go anywhere. My friend and I used to actually drive and get ourselves lost. I may have shared this on this podcast before, but we used to drive and we would try to get lost because it was fun for us to try to find our way back home. And you might chalk that up to being stupid teenagers. But for us, we were living in this sense of adventure. Like, we got the keys. We can go anywhere. Let's do that. And then get lost and try to find our way home. And that's such a beautiful analogy to this life, that we are in the driver's seat. We've got the keys. The gas is the energy that we continue to put into the vehicle because we understand who we really are, that we are these multidimensional co-creative beings that are here to live out this life. And then we have the freedom to do that. So we give ourselves the energy and the motivation to do that. And then we go wherever we want. If we get lost, then finding our way home is going to teach us a whole bunch of lessons. It's going to give us information we never had before the getting lost. If we break down or we get in an accident or something happens on the road, then overcoming that and getting past that gives us information, teaches us things that we never had before. Life is this analogy. There's probably a better one out there too, but this is the analogy I'm going to use right now. Freedom in this life is an inner game. It's truly you understanding and remembering who you are, a free soul being here in this body, having this experience. Now you get to choose where you want to go, what you want to do, how you want to live this life. And that's the true freedom. That's the fun of this life. That's the place that I hope that you'll continue to go with me, with other teachers, with other guides, with yourself, within your own being, understanding that you are the higher self. You are that spark of source consciousness getting to live this out. So take yourself on that adventure and that journey. If I can be with you, help you, support you in any way, I would love to, but it's still your journey. It's still your car. You got the keys. If you're looking for more support in this area of, I don't know where to find my keys. I lost my keys again. I don't remember where I parked and I need a little help starting the engine, or I've run out of gas. We've taken this analogy too far. But if you have any of those things, which we all do at times, then come back to this podcast, tune in, because I promise you the episode that you listen to will be exactly the one that you need to hear at that moment. And then go to theeverydaymystic.org. We have a new membership that can join, and you will get sent regular recorded activations and soul prompts and given resources and materials to support you on this journey. If it's a little gas for the car or a little map to find your keys, whatever it is, that membership is there to support you on this fun ride. Because when we're together, we're going to have more fun and we're going to be in more joy with all of this. And that's truly my mission, is for all of us to live in more true joy. It's that feeling of, I'm just happy sitting here. I'm just happy looking out this window. I am happy being in my body. I just feel good today. I feel good in time and space. That kind of contentment, that kind of happiness, which is not fleeting. It is pure and true and feels right when you're in it. If there's any ultimate destination, that would be it. And we know that this journey has no true destination except for the one back to ourselves, back to remembering who we are. So here's to you remembering who you are, where you're going, and being here together, doing it together and supporting each other in all that fun. So go to theeverydaymystic.org, connect with us there, and we'll see you next time.